Hi, I'm Thomas Führing and I would like to show you my take on the stereo guitar. Now I know there have been attempts at this before, but never the way that I felt it should be done, so I had to go with it. Now the basic idea behind it is, if you look at it, the guitar is kind of like two instruments in one. You have the upper three strings, which are rather a treble instrument, used typically for soloing, for melodies. And then you have the lower three strings, which are more on the bass register, used for chord accompaniment or even bass lines. Now, the idea is, what if we can separate those two, get a separate signal out of the guitar for each of them and treat it separately, run it through a different signal chain to accommodate for the specific properties of those frequencies and also the strings, and maybe that way optimize the whole thing. Now what I did, I got myself this budget Telecaster, and I swapped out the pickup and I put in a split coil pickup, which is a Telecaster pickup, just two coils in one, but they are not in parallel like they usually are on a humbucker, but they are in line. And each coil, like one coil picks up the signal from the upper three strings, and the other coil picks up the signal from the lower three strings. And I tap this in the middle and run it out through a stereo jack, like this. Use a stereo cable to feed it into two separate amps or channels on the TWA. Now I also put in a second tone pot, one for the upper register and one for the lower register, so I can have a different cutoff frequency for each of them. I swapped out the volume pot because I needed to put in a stereo one to control both channels at the same time. And then I put in a mega switch, which is a 5-way switch which allows for a whole lot of combinations. This way I can switch between mono and stereo and different pickup combinations. Okay, now you would probably care to hear what it sounds like. Unfortunately, I'm not much of a guitar player, but I recorded a few takes off camera, and I hope it will suffice to give you an idea of what this might be up to. Now, a word on the stereo effect. When you use those two signals and put one all the way to the left and the other one all the way to the right on the stereo spectrum, it kind of sounds awkward, to me at least. But the way to do it is to pan one of them ever so slightly to the left and the other one ever so slightly to the right. And this way it makes for a nice spatial effect. Kind of like when you sit in front of the piano, you also hear the lower notes more on your left and the treble notes more on your right, and it just sounds fuller. Now, just to try it, I did the same with this cheap P bass. Here it was rather simple because it's already got those split coil pickups in there. All I had to do was to tap the signal and run it out through a stereo jack and use the stereo cable. I also put in a push-pull pot. This way I can switch it back to mono, and then the bass behaves just like it came from factory. When I push it out, it plays stereo. It was a simple hack here because it just took me a few years. A stereo jack, a push-pull pot, and an extra capacitor. And it's not intrusive. Now let's have a listen.